thanks for taking the time out of your day to come listen to us. My name is Jeremy Tang, and I've got here with me Zach White, and we're both. I'm the primary architect of the software we're about to show you, which is BlackBird. Zach White, as well as a we call him a product specialist, but in actuality, he does a lot of the I'd say a lot of the design of the product too, in terms of refining the features and making sure that from a trader's perspective, that what we're actually creating is useful to you guys. So again, I want to really emphasize like we do this kind of out of passion. Like my background is software development. I love building tools, and building tools that people use every day for their trading is really what gets me up in the morning. And when I hear people really digging the stuff that we're making, it really energizes me and excites me for the future. And so today we're going to be showing let me just click the slide there. We're going to be showing BlackBird. And if you're not too familiar with BlackBird, it's basically our second product, flagship product, and what it really does is sort of brings the whole trading paradigm full circle. So we first released Bloodhound, and Bloodhound was a signal generator, and that's exactly what it does. It creates signals, and in NinjaTrader, it's an indicator. But we really want to tackle the other side of the equation, which, as you're going to see in a moment, it's a lot more to it than just managing the trades. But the idea is, like, once you got the signals, then what do you do from there? It turns out when we studied a lot of discretionary traders, there's a lot of stuff that happens when your trade goes live to when it exits. And so one of the main tenets behind BlackBird, all right, is the different aspects that we're covering. So yes, it's a trade manager. It takes signals that you generate or you plug in manually to put trades live, and it massages and manages those trades and executes them exactly how you've imagined them to be. But on top of that, it also is a risk manager and a money manager, and those are sort of tenets and concepts that come from the institutional trading world, which we've had a lot of demand to sort of put those into a retail product, and you're going to see how that kind of all fits together and how it really nicely and seamlessly integrates with the trade manager as well. So they really go hand in hand, even though they're kind of separate concepts. You'll see in a minute like how it all just kind of works together really nicely. And so basically the whole philosophy behind BlackBird is after looking at some of these discretionary traders, and we really want to just, what we saw out there and what discretionary traders did, like in reality, really contrasted with what the tools were able to do. And what I mean, for example, is, like one of our partners, example, Daniel Rowe. If you ever watch him trade, he doesn't just put on a stop loss and a profit target and 10 ticks from the position and then just kind of lets things ride. No, I mean, it's really complicated what he does. He'll be adjusting stuff on the fly, reacting to indicators, reacting to price action, looking at higher time frames, and incorporating all that knowledge into how far the stops are. Even changing it up in the middle of a trade. If he sees the market turn on him, those are all kind of really advanced moves that a discretionary trader will do very commonly, and we really want to be able to build that power into this software so that you could do that too. And so for us, I'm just going to kind of get one thing out of the way here, and that we're all aware that NinjaTrader comes with its own trade manager called the ATM, the Advanced Trade Manager, or / the Chart Trader. And so what we really wanted to do is take that and really just go crazy with it, literally. So it's you can't even really compare the two. It's really like comparing apples to oranges, or in this case, Cessna 172 versus the BlackBird spy plane. The idea being that is like anything the ATM can do, BlackBird can do very easily, just kind of on a rudimentary level, but it does a heck of a lot more than that. It actually, one of the most powerful aspects of it is you could think of it as almost like an autopilot. So imagine you're a pilot, and you can make sort of the executive decisions, but you've kind of imbued your trading style in terms of executing the minute details, and you can sort of pre-program BlackBird to run very sophisticated trading patterns, very sophisticated trading movements, movements with your stop losses, profit targets, etc. All the while looking at your risk management, all the while considering money management rules in terms of you know, what's happening to your account as a whole, and then you can just kind of offload all that difficult detail work and allow you to, again, make the executive decisions during the day, much like this autopilot here. So basically, you're here to look at the software, and as we sort of build in the emails, that this is going to be an engineering demo. So we're going to spend a fair bit of time looking at the actual software itself. So I'm going to actually pass the baton now off to Zach, who actually has BlackBird set up right now, and he's just going to run you through some very typical things that BlackBird can do.
So I'm sure some of you old timers there recognize that autopilot from the movie Airplane. So if you haven't seen the 1980s movie Airplane, it's pretty funny. It's a good one there. All right, so I'm the software trainer and the kind of the software expert on the Shark Indicator products product line here. So I'm going to do the actual demo for you. So, you know, we kind of start off comparing, using the ATM as our comparison, right? Most of you guys are familiar with Ninja's ATM, right? And that's kind of really the only auto trailing that most traders have experienced with Ninja here. And, you know, after a while, it's a pretty natural progression of the trader to want, you know, some more advanced trailing capabilities, especially if you're wanting to get into automated trading design as well. So the question is, how many of you have ever wanted to, take Ninja's ATM and attach your stop loss to an indicator? One of the more popular indicators out there is the ANA super trend. There's another super trend indicator out there, which is, an ATR based kind of stop loss indicator. And so I'm going to show you how easy it is to actually attach your stop loss to an indicator such as the ANA super trend, and and allow an indicator based trailing system there. So all right, with that, let's pull this down. So I have I already have BlackBird up here ready to go. And just a quick note, so as mentioned earlier, our Bloodhound is the indicator component, which indicators are, what is what your trading system is typically based off of, is indicators. So Bloodhound's in the indicator class to build your trade signals. And BlackBird is in the strategy class. So the strategy class is the class that can actually execute trades, right? So indicators cannot execute trades. Only strategies can actually execute and manage your trades. So BlackBird falls under the category class here. So for anybody new to the strategy category or class, so there we go. We got BlackBird, and I've already got it up and running here. And so you can see I have the ANA super trend already on my chart, ready to go. And so I'm going to open up BlackBird here using the order settings button. And so this opens up kind of the heart of BlackBird, right? This is BlackBird's mission control, kind of the control interface where you set up BlackBird the way you want it to trade for you. So, so down here is where you define your orders here. So I'm just going to do a quick market order, and I'm just going to throw a simple 2 ATR profit target in there, so just so we have something. And I'm going to focus now, right now, I'm going to focus on the stop loss. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to create a stop loss that trails our ANA super trend indicator here, right? The blue line and the dotted red line there. So you can see, right, we have a lot of predefined stop losses here, right? We kind of call this the quick list here. And it has the most typical type of stop losses out there that people like to use, right? A 10 tick, you know, so there's just a fixed tick, and of course you take that 10 tick and quickly modify it to whatever tick size stop loss you want. You can use an ATR based stop loss, right? So if you're trading minute charts, you know, minute or volume or tick based charts, right, you can use an ATR, you know, so your stop loss and your profit target is based on volatility, right? You can even trail previous bar prices, you know, so like if your trading style, you know, you like to trail, you know, the bar low, the previous bar lows as price goes up, you know, there's a quick list for that. The parabolic SAR, you know, that's an old-fashioned stop loss indicator that comes with NinjaTrader, so we included that. And then you can even use swing points, right? So packaged with our installer is a swing point indicator, and I'll show that to you here in just a moment. And then we have, so these are all fixed stop losses, no trailing. And then we have the same ones, but they're all set up for trailing capabilities. So what I'm going to do to save some time is I'm going to use this parabolic SAR, which is an indicator-based stop loss. All right, so the parabolic SAR is an indicator, just like the ANA super trend indicator on my chart. And the reason why I'm using the parabolic SAR is because it kind of set up the framework for my stop loss already. And all I need to do is replace this parabolic SAR. Right, so I can just replace this parabolic SAR with any indicator that I want to use for my stop loss. So I can just go in here, hit the configure button, and there's my ANA super trend indicator that I'll use for this demonstration. Right, I'm just using the default parameters, but you can go in and adjust these parameters to whatever kind of custom indicator settings you want to use for the ANA super trend. And we're going to have our stop loss follow the stop dot plot, right? So that's the little dotted plots there. So, right, so, you know, the explanation took 10 times longer than it actually took to do the work, right? So you can see I was able to quickly just go in there and swap out that parabolic SAR with the ANA super trend. So, all right, so that's our initial placement. Right, so that's our first price initial location where we place it, and then on the trailing actions tab, this is where we can set up custom trailing rules, right? And this is where BlackBird has a lot of its power. Is you can build your own custom trailing rules here. You know, there's a lot of options. You know, a lot of components that you can use to highly tune your stop loss. And so instead of the PSAR, I'm going to use the ANA super trend. So we can see over here at the action here, this is what's going to move our stop loss to the parabolic SAR. So I want to replace that parabolic SAR, and I want to move our stop loss to the ANA super trend. So I'll replace that with the ANA super trend, plug that in, you know, change my parameters if I need to. The stop dot is already placed for us, so right, piece of cake, really easy to do. And it was really just that simple to modify my stop loss to use, any kind of indicator that I wanted to, that acts as a trailing stop loss there. So there we go. So let's take this, and we can see we're in an uptrend here. So I'll just hit the go long button, and there we go. We can see our stop loss is sitting, right at the end of super trend. Now keep in mind, some indicators, indicators move in fine decimal point increments, and of course your stop loss has to match the nearest tick price. So our stop loss is sitting right above it there. And if I move the market up, what I'll just crank the market up, and we can watch our stop loss follow the end of super trend there. So I'm just going to move our profit target way out of the way, and give the market just a moment to start climbing upwards here. And as our super trend indicator starts climbing up, our stop loss is going to match it there. So let's see, after this bar here, I think this bar ought to start moving the super trend up. Let's see, no, not quite yet. Yeah, it looks like one more bar. And we'll watch this here. There we go. So we're starting to get a little bit of movement there. And I accidentally grabbed it. So that'll allow me to kind of introduce another panel here. All right. Since I manually adjusted my stop loss, that will disable the trailing by automatically there. Right. And before I get taken out of this trade, let's move this guy way out of there. Right. So you can manually adjust your profit targets and stop loss as you see fit, right? And if you do take manual control, well, we have to disable the auto trailing, right? So that way the trailing doesn't kick back in and override, what you just manually did. And so we have a order monitor panel here. And what I can do is I can turn on the auto trailing again, and bingo, we can see our stop loss jumped right back up to the end of super trend there. And now we can watch that stop loss just crank on up with the end as the end of super trend moves up here. One more bar. So there we go. All right. So kind of, point taken there. I'm going to minimize this order monitor, get that kind of out of the way there. Let me move on to the next step here. So one of the things about the end of super trend is that you wouldn't be able to take a trade in the opposite direction, right? So let's close this out here, and let me turn the market back to a balanced mode here. So, let's say you're kind of a counter trend trader, or, as a discretionary trader, you decide you want to take a short here. What's going to happen? Well, your stop loss is going to be below the market on a short, so that, that just wouldn't happen there. And we can see down here, BlackBird is giving you some feedback telling you that your stop loss, is on the wrong side of the market there. It's on the wrong side of the market there. So you wouldn't be able to use the end of super trend, to trade any direction you feel like, right? You're kind of stuck with your indicator here that you're using. In every week, I do a weekly training seminars, and this question came up from a customer, and he found a solution to that. His solution was to use a different indicator to set the stop loss, and then trail the end of super trend once the end of super trend switches to the right direction of the trade, right? So I'm going to take that idea, and I'm going to tweak it a little bit. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw on a swing indicator here. So this swings, highs, lows indicator is included with the Shark indicator installer. It's included for free. This was originally written by a programmer named Dorshand from Big Mike's, and he was kind enough to allow us to include it with our Shark indicator package. And what it does is it provides, it's an improved swing indicator, right? Ninja includes a swing indicator, but this one from Dorshand is a highly more improved swing indicator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this swing indicator, and let's change the scaling here. So I'm going to use this swing indicator to set our stop loss to this swing indicator instead of instead of using the super trend, we'll actually use the swing indicator instead. So let's see. Right now we actually will. We do need to wait for a swing high to kind of set up there, but while we're waiting on that, what I'll do is I'll open BlackBird back up and demonstrate how we can easily modify our stop loss so that we can take a trade in any direction, regardless if you want to use the anti-super trend as you're trailing or not. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that starting point, that starting price for our stop loss, right? So we just found out we can't always use the super trend. If we wanted to take a short here, well, stop loss is on the wrong side of the market if we want to take a short trade. So what we can do is we're going to use the swing points interface here. So this interface, it's actually using this indicator here. It's using this indicator to get these swing points. So you can see all the indicator settings are available here. You can select, which plots you want to use. Right, so this is already by default. This is set up correctly by default. So if we're going to take a long trade, we want to use the swing bottoms. If we want to take a short trade, we want to use the swing tops there. So all I had to do is switch it over to the swing points, and there we go. Our initial placement is ready to go. So let's take a look. All right, so now we have a swing high here. So now if I want to take a short trade, bingo, you can see there is our stop loss sitting at that swing high, and then it just adjusted to the swing low. I'm sorry, it adjusted to the Anna super trend there. You can see it's already starting to trail that Anna super trend there. All right. So now let's. So now if we want to take a long trade again, right? Our stop loss is going to end up down here at the swing low, right? We can see the swing low way down here. So let's take a long trade. Boom, stop loss ended up down there. But did you just see just what happened there? Let me do this again. Our stop loss is down there, and then our stop loss quickly moved up and quickly moved up to the Anna super trend indicator, right, which is on the wrong side of the market there. So, right, so we kind of revealed some, another issue that we need to overcome. And so that gives me the opportunity to kind of show you more of the powerful features that BlackBird has in its trailing rules. So what we're going to do is go back into our stop loss, right? So we're still going to place our stop loss at the swing points, but what we don't want to happen is we don't want the trailing action to start using the super trend if the super trend is on the wrong side of the market, right? So what I can do is I can go into the trailing actions, And as I showed, right, there's other components to these trailing actions here. And so one of the other powerful parts of these trailing rules, trailing actions, is we have these triggering events. And so what this does is this has a whole bunch of different options here, conditions, and we can use these conditions when we use these conditions have to be met first, and then the trailing action can proceed. So what we'll do is we're going to use this price versus indicator, right? So we want to make sure that price is on the correct side of the indicator before we start using the anti-super trend, before we start trailing, right? So for indicator A, that's already set to our closing price, right? So we'll make sure that the closing price of the bar is on the correct side of the anti-super trend. And so then indicator B, we're going to set this to our anti-super trend. So we're going to replace the SMA and we're going to use our anti-super trend there. There we go. So again, I'm just going to use the default settings there. So we're good to go. And now the next thing here is, you can, depending if you're counter trend trading or trend trading, you might need to adjust these conditions here. But what we want to make sure is that the closing price is above our indicator, right? So we want A above B, right? So A is our closing price, B is our indicator. So if we're taking a long trade, we want to make sure that the closing price is above the anti-super trend. And we'll just make the same opposite adjustment for a short trade, right? So there, I was able to use a very simple triggering conditions here. And what that does is that's going to make sure that the closing price is on the right side of the market before we start using the anti-super trend to trail. So let's close that out. And let's see here. All right, so I'll put the market in an uptrend, and let's say we want to take a long trade now. And let's move our stop loss, our profit target out of the way. And so we can see our stop loss, right, is in a good spot there. And let me go and turn the auto trailing back on because I touched my stop loss. So our stop loss is just going to sit down there at the swing low, and we can see it's no longer jumping up to the anti-super trend, right? It's no longer trailing the anti-super trend. So what we're going to have to do is wait for price to surpass that anti-super trend. And once price is on the right side, on the correct side of anti-super trend, then our stop loss will start trailing it, right? And there we go. So our anti-super trend, right, well, price is above the anti-super trend there. So price just jumped up to the anti-super trend as soon as it was safe to do so. Right, and so, as the market just kind of inches higher, all right, so now once the blue anti-super trend starts climbing up here, then it'll start following that, start trailing that anti-super trend up higher, like so. All right, so you can see there's a lot of flexibility there in BlackBird to kind of control your stop loss and put in all these kind of fine detailed kind of controls there. Right. All right, let's see. The next demo I have here for you is you can even trail your entry orders. So what I'm going to show you here is I'm going to put the SMA on my chart, and actually, in this example, now I'll use an SMA 14. Right, here we go, SMA 14. And just to kind of further show you, all the capabilities that BlackBird has, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a limit order here. So instead of using a market, I'm going to use a limit order, and I'm going to have that limit order follow this SMA 14. Right? So we're going to use an indicator value, and so our the SMA 14 comes up as just kind of the default indicator. So, right, it's quick and easy to kind of demonstrate this. And then, if you're going to use a limit or a stop, right, those two orders have to wait for the market to pick those orders up. And right, so you have the capability to even add trailing rules to your entry order. So you could have your limit order kind of follow the market. You can have the limit order follow an indicator, which is following the market. So if the market takes off without you, you can have your limit order, using some indicator that's also going to follow the market. You can set your limit order to that. And so to do this, I'm just going to create a rule here. So we'll just give this a simple name here. So we're going to follow the SMA. And so what I need to do is change this move to. So we want to move our entry order to an indicator. We're going to use an indicator value, which is our SMA 14. So there we go. So we're going to move our entry order to the SMA 14. And then there's a repeat, which also adds even more flexibility here, more capabilities. And so we want to make sure that our limit order is following that SMA 14 indefinitely, right? So on every bar, we want our limit order to keep updating or keep trailing this SMA 14. So we'll turn the repeat on, and there we go. I just had to set two components there, and we're good to go. And let's see here. I should probably let me move this profit target out here so we're not closing that order out too soon. There we go. All right, click OK. Right, so we're definitely in an uptrend here. So let's go long. And you can see our SMA is sitting, our limit order is sitting right on that SMA, right? So then all we need to do is I can just pull the market down a little bit and just wait for that market pullback to pick up your limit order. So as we're watching this, you can see that limit order is just going to keep following the SMA 14 there until we get that pullback to pick up that order there, right? So kind of the point to all this is just the flexibility that BlackBird has, right? There's no other modular strategy out there that allows you to kind of pre-program, whatever you want. There's no other strategy out there that allows you to use any indicator out there that you want to use, right? All the current strategies that are out there, they're all pre-programmed. They're all pre-programmed with, with indicators, and you're not allowed to swap them out, right? The programmer would have to code in a brand new indicator into their system if you wanted to use something different, right? But with BlackBird, you can mix and match whatever indicators you want to your heart's desire there. There's no, we don't set any limitations on this. It's kind of like a box of Legos and an erector set. You build what you want to use. So, and even profit targets. If you really, really want to get advanced, you can even build logic here to control where your stop losses move. You can, you can set the initial price for your profit target, and then if you're a really advanced trader there, you could create a custom trailing rule. For example, like you could use Bloodhound, some Bloodhound signals for those Bloodhound users out there. You can have Bloodhound look for certain market conditions, and if market conditions look correct, you can push your profit target further out. But if market conditions look bad, if they start to turn on your trade, you can pull your profit target in closer to the market. So that way you're at least trying to capture at least some kind of a profit, instead of waiting for your stop loss to get hit. All right, so there's a lot of flexibility, right? You can move your profit target in, or you could move your stop loss in, two different ways to kind of protect your profits and lock them in there, right? So total flexibility there. And so let's see, with that, I'm going to cover a couple of new features that we've recently added to BlackBird. So BlackBird was launched almost a year ago, and since then we have been constantly adding new features to it. So we just recently had our 4th major update to BlackBird, and we still have a lot of features that we want to add into BlackBird. Some of them are just going to be enhancements of existing features, and some of them are going to be some new capabilities that we want to add into BlackBird. So as soon as we roll over to Ninja 8, we're going to keep adding those features into BlackBird. But right now our focus is on rolling over, getting everything converted over to Ninja 8 first. Anyways, with that little side note there, we have 2 new capabilities here that make it easier for you to scale in to a position, right? So if you want to build a system that scales in based on trade conditions there, then we have this new trade signal trigger option. And so what I'm going to set this up is that order A, it's going to go in, on signal 1. So that'll go in on signal 1. And, let's see, I'm going to change things up here. Let's say we just want to go in with a market order, right? So we just want to jump in, right? So once we get a trade signal, right, and the trade signal would be coming from either Bloodhound or, or some other custom indicator, right? Indicator Warehouse, Lucrum Trading Systems, those guys have indicators that provide trade signals, and you can plug those right into BlackBird. Or for you Bloodhound owners, you can take your Bloodhound signals, of course, and plug them right in. So this market order is going to enter on the first trade signal that comes in. And what I can do is I can simply make a copy. I can copy the first order, and now order B, my second order, I can set that up so that it goes in on the second trade signal here, right? So we're using trade signal triggers, and order B is going to go in on my second trade signal. And then, and I can just keep adding to this. If I want to, if I want to scale in with a third contract, on the third trade signal, we can do that. And, we can just keep going, right? There's no limit to how many orders, you can put in here. So I can even scale in with a 4th order if I want to, right? So a big enhancement there, making it easier for systematic traders that want to scale in, scale into into their position there. All right. With that, let's see here. With that, we're gonna switch over to the next part of this demonstration here. So the next part, we're going to kind of get into risk management a little bit. So Jeremy had kind of highlighted one of the capabilities of BlackBird is risk management and money management. And so we're going to show off a recently improved trade fit algorithm here that will scale the number of contracts automatically to your risk management that you want here. So let's dive into that. So let me let's see. Yeah, let me. I'm going to build a quick order set here just to kind of give us a demonstration. And so I'm just going to build this quickly in front of you guys, just to kind of show you, how easy this really is to go in and make adjustments. Oops. All right, so my first order, my first profit target is going to be 15 ticks, and I put a 20 tick stop loss in there, and I'm going to create a second profit target, right? I'm just going to copy the first, and I'll create a second profit target here. Let's scale that up to 20 ticks, and then I'll make a third profit target here, right? This is pretty typical here. Traders trading with 3 different profit targets, very common trading scheme. And I'll throw this third one way out there at 50 ticks. Let's say this third profit target's almost kind of like a runner there, right? And the number of contracts, I have them all set to one contract, and one contract. And right, so that's my order set there, right? 3 profit target. And the scale to fit, the way you can automatically scale up our number of contracts is in money management. So we have this section down here, right? This trade fit section right there, trade fit. We have a risk per trade. So, if you like to adjust your risk based on your account size, then you can just plug in your account size. So let's say you have a $10,000 account, plug in your account size, and then right, the default setting is here. This is going to risk 2% of your account size. If you want to, you can go in there, adjust it down to 1, right? So now it's going to risk 1% of your account size. So, but I'm going to make this easy here. Easy to understand, and let's just put in a fixed risk here of I'll put in $800. That's a bit extreme, but this is going to exaggerate the contract scaling that I want to get a point across to you, right? So we've told BlackBird we want to keep our risk per trade under $800. Yeah, $800 or under, right? So with that, click the OK button. And if I go into the dynamic planning, so we'll touch more on this dynamic planning here in a little bit. And so let's see, I'll plan for a long trade here. And so you can see right now, we went in with 3 contracts, right? 1 contract for profit target A, 1 contract profit target B, 1 contract profit target C, right? 1, 1, and 1 is 3 contracts. Now, if I turn on this scale to fit option here, you can see our contracts scaled up to 8 now. So, right, so we can actually trade 8 contracts with that $800 risk. And if you want to see what your actual risk is, we have this risk reward panel here. And you can see BlackBird was able to adjust us to exactly an $800 risk, right? Exactly an $800 risk, right? And that risk is based on your stop loss, right? So with a 20 tick stop loss, you can trade 8 contracts on the NQ. So this is on the NQ. All right, so based on your instrument, based on your stop loss there, and oh, looks like, yeah, it looks like the Ninja closed me out there on the market. Let me, yeah, I had something, Ninja canceling my strategy there on me automatically. I forgot to turn something off there, I think. So, all right, let's get back into this demo. All right, there we go. Okay, so again, this $800 risk, is based on where our stop loss is. Now, if I move the stop loss in, right, which minimizes our risk, you can see the number of contracts can go up. And let's see, we're still at $800 risk. Let's see if I adjust push our stop loss way out there. Let's see if we want to use this swing low for some reason. Okay, now our risk is $600. All right, so BlackBird had to adjust the number of contracts down to 2, right? So we can see profit target C has 0 contracts, right? And we're at a $600 risk there. That's all we can do with such a large stop loss there, right? So there you go. So the contracts are auto sizing, auto scaling based on our stop loss risk there. Let's see here. And yeah, here's one of the other things I wanted to show you. So let's move in that stop loss in real tight. And so you notice how profit target C has more contracts than these quick profit targets, right? And most traders, they would actually want the majority of contracts. Most trading coaches out there and teach you to load up the majority of contracts in your first profit target, right? So this would be like 7 contracts, and then B might be less, like maybe 4 contracts, and C would be 1 or 2 contracts. And so with the latest enhancement that we just threw into BlackBird, you have detailed, finer control over the number of the contract amount in each of these profit targets here. And so I'm going to jump into that and kind of give you a demonstration here. So let's open up BlackBird here and do that. So you see the contract name here, A. So this is order set A. If we open this up, you'll see there's some controls here that you can apply to this order set. Lots of detailed controls so that you can fine tune and control practically every aspect, of BlackBird, of your system here. So, one of the things I'm going to do with this auto scaling is, so allow upscaling. For most people, trading 22 contracts is way more than their account can support. So what we can do is we can go in here and we can adjust this. So let's say we want to make sure that our first profit target for order set A has no more than 5 contracts in it, right? So now I've placed a limitation that order A can only have 1 to 5 contracts in it. And then down here, this is where you give BlackBird the flexibility to adjust the number of contracts. So I'm going to give BlackBird full flexibility to adjust the number of contracts for order A here, right? So, so there we go. So we made some micro adjustments for order A. So let's go into B, order set B. So let's kind of adjust things for B. So let's say we don't want B to have more than 3 contracts. So I can make an adjustment. So order set B, right, our second profit target, can go to a maximum of 3 contracts, right? It can upscale to a maximum of 3 contracts there. And the ratio, so the quantity ratio, I'm going to leave that on balance right here in the middle, right? So A, remember A, we set this all the way to flexible, and B is set on balanced. Now C, right, that's our long distance kind of runner, and typically you want that to have the least number of contracts. So let's adjust this, and we'll tell BlackBird, you know what, you can only go up to 2 contracts, right? So order profit target C is allowed a maximum of 2 contracts there. And then the ratio for this is we want C to be more exact, right? In other words, we don't want to allow BlackBird to increase the number of contracts for C unless basically A and B are almost maxed out, right? So once A gets close to being maxed out with its maximum number of contracts and B, then BlackBird will start adding that second contract to profit target C here. So we'll make this more rigid, so to speak. Right. Okay, so we kind of did some fine tuning here. So now if we go into our dynamic planner, and let me reset things here again. And now, as we look at things, so now we can see we got 4, 2, and 2. And let's see, what is our risk? So our risk is maxed out at $800 there. All right. Now, if we increase our risk, all right, let's pull our stop loss down. We increase that risk. So now we can see A has 2, and B and C are at 1 contract there. Right. So, right. So, this kind of control over which profit targets, get the most number of contracts with the auto scaling. That algorithm has been recently greatly enhanced and improved upon the first version of it. There. So, let's see. What else was I going to show you here? Other components of it. Yeah, more. Okay, so let me kind of dive into more about the dynamic planner here. So you may have noticed that these flags have a translucent nature to them, right? If I take one of these flags, you can almost see the bars underneath them, right? They're translucent. And that's because we're in planning stage, right? This is not a live order. This order will not go live until I hit the execute button, right? So if I hit, so once I've kind of got my stop loss in place, I've got my profit targets where I want them, then I can hit the execute button, and now it's a live trade, right? So there's our limit entry is sitting exactly at the price we set it to. And if I pull the market down, to fill us, you'll see that our stop loss is going to end up down here, right below this swing low, exactly where I had set it in the dynamic planner when we're in planning mode. So that's, we'll let the market come down here, fill this order, and just see exactly, right? We'll see those stop losses and our profit targets go in. And bingo, there we go, right? Stop loss is sitting right down there, right where we put it. So, all right, let's close that out, and I'll show you more enhancements to the dynamic planner. So if we plan for another long trade here, and actually, before I do that, let me make a quick adjustment that's going to make this demonstration here a little easier for me. So I'm going to set the stop loss, adjust it a little differently for order C here. So that way they're not all stacked on top of each other. And I'm doing that just for this demonstration purpose. So, so one of the cool things about the dynamic planner, right, is you can grab your entry order and I can move it up. And you can see the stop loss and profit targets, you know, they're adjusting up and down with that limit order, right? So I can dictate exactly where I want to get into the market. So if I think, you know, if I think the market's going to come back to this previous swing high, I can set my limit order right there, and right, and my profit targets, you know, are locked in to my limit order. However, you know, if you're really kind of a market geometry type trader where you like trading these swing points as, you know, or fib points, fib levels as support resistance, well, you have full control to do that. So I could grab this stop loss and I can move it down here, right underneath this previous swing low, right? We can see I've got a swing low way back here from way back when. So I can move that profit target way down, that stop loss way down there. And I can move these other stop losses down there. And now, if I grab my entry order, my stop losses are locked down here, right? I manually moved my stop losses and they're locked in place now. But my profit targets, you can see they're still adjusting with my entry order. So the profit targets are going to float with my entry order, like so. However, if I decide to take my runner and push it way out here, for example, now that profit target is going to be locked in place because I manually moved it. So now if I move my entry order, right, you can see only those two profit targets, A and B, are now the only two orders that are going to adjust with my limit, right? Because I manually moved my stop losses to kind of lock them in place, right? That's where I want them to go. I don't want them to keep moving every time I move my my entry price here. So, right, so that's another cool enhancement that we beefed up with the dynamic planner there. Make it more intuitive, more natural for the way traders are, you know, typically kind of wanting to trade there. So, and if you want to reset stuff, you know, if you want to reset everything, all you gotta do is turn it off and turn it back on, and everything's, you know, profit targets, stop losses are again, you know, floating around with my entry order price, right? And that is a big change from the way that I have seen. I've literally seen people trade this way, and you know, trading coaches trade this way with the ATM here. So I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna give you a quick demo of how it's currently done. Right, currently, the way people people are adjusting their contracts, if they're using an ATM, right? So I've got a typical ATM setup here with three targets, three profit targets, and you can see I've got stop losses set way out there and profit targets set way out there. And I have literally seen people trade this way. And they do this on purpose because, you know, really their goal is they're going to go get into the market. And with the ATM, you have to get into the market live, right? So you have to submit a live order. And then once you're in live, then you can actually adjust stuff like so, right? So you have to put yourself at risk. The current way of doing things with the ATM, you know, to make no mistake, the ATM is a great tool. It's a good improvement, but you know, but it needs further refinement, further improvements. And so currently, right now, you know, if you wanted to, you know, if you're kind of trading swing points, you have to go in here and, you know, adjust your profit targets, you know, after the fact. You know, you actually have to go in live, you know, take that risk. And, you know, on a fast moving market, that can be pretty darn dangerous to do. You know, I've seen that. That can be pretty dangerous to do, to, you know, put yourself live and then adjust your, you know, your stops and your profit targets afterwards, like that, right? So that's kind of the current way of doing things. And, you know, basically we built a better mousetrap here. So now that, you know, the safer way to do things is to pre-plan your trade, you know, put your, you know, you can place your limit order where you want, place your stops where you want, you know, before going live, and then when you're ready, then execute and go live after that. So, yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's kind of a, you know, a good summary overview of the dynamic planner and that scale to fit feature here. And so with that, I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of break things down for you. So, you know, at first glance, you know, like, remember the first time you ever opened up Microsoft Excel, right? Any new piece of software can be kind of daunting at first. And it's really helpful if you can find some training material that kind of breaks things down, you know, because really, once you kind of got to use Excel, you realized, oh, it wasn't really all that complicated. And BlackBird really has three simple components to it. You know, so while it has a lot of sophistication, it really kind of breaks down into three components here. So you have this management section here, right? You got file management, right? You can open up pre-saved settings, save settings. You have risk management, money management section, you know, a trade scheduling section, you know, and various other kind of options there. Then you have the trade signals. So I haven't really gotten into this, but, you know, you can turn BlackBird into a fully automated system just by plugging in your trade signals, right? Plug in your trade signals, and BlackBird becomes a full auto trader for you. And then the last section here, which is, you know, I've talked about this. This is what I've mainly been covering in the demo so far, is the order settings here, right? This is kind of the heart of BlackBird, where, you know, I'd say most of its power comes from, is being able to control your orders. You know, more, you can build more powerful trailing stop losses, you know, as an example here. So right, so that's the three components, right? Three sections to BlackBird, really, you know, pretty simple. And so now I'm going to take this opportunity and I'm going to cover some of these management controls here, the risk management, money management, and the scheduler there. So let's kind of go over those a little bit. And oh, look at that, we got picked up. We got picked up when I had the PowerPoint up. And so there's our stop losses sitting right below that swing low where we put them. And there's our 15 tick, 20, and 50 tick profit target there sitting there. So, all right. It's kind of some fun stuff to watch. All right. So with BlackBird here, let me mention the risk management here quickly. So risk management, you know, why do you need this feature here, right? Because if you're trading a 15 tick profit target and a 20 tick stop loss, well, you know what your risk reward is already, right? That's a 15 to 20 risk reward, right? Or what is it, 0.7 to 1 risk reward, you already know. Well, with BlackBird, you know, as I had mentioned, as I demonstrated earlier, you can use indicators here. So, you know, let's say we're using an indicator to set the location of our stop loss, right? Or if you're using the ANA super trend, right? So if you're placing your stop loss on an indicator, you have no idea what your risk is on every change, right? Because that indicator is changing all the time, right? So that changes your risk on every single trade. So your risk reward is constantly in flux if you're using an indicator to control your stop loss. And if you're using an indicator to set your profit target, right, there are some indicators out there that will set your profit target, that will set a profit target goal for you, and you could plug that indicator into your profit target here. So if you're using two indicators to control your stop loss and your profit target, now your risk reward is even in a greater state of flux. And so what this risk management does is it allows you to place constraints on BlackBird, right? You're telling BlackBird, you know what, don't take any trades that have a risk, that have a reward to risk ratio of 2-to-1, right? So with your trading strategy, your trading methodology, you know, if you have an idea of what kind of risk reward ratio that you need for your system to be profitable, you can plug that minimum risk reward in here. And so what would happen is, you know, if the parabolic SAR gave us a greater risk of 2-to-1, then BlackBird would just pass on the trade. You know, BlackBird's going to go, oh, you know, that parabolic SAR, you know, is going to push that stop loss too far out. That violates, you know, this risk reward ratio that you require, and it'll just pass on the trade, right? It just simply passes on the trade there. So that's you know, that's the power there of that risk reward ratio when using indicator based stop losses and profit targets. So all right, next one, money management. You know, we included all the typical bells and whistles that, you know, all of our customers have been asking for, right? Most common one is, you know, hey, you know, I want my strategy, I want my system to turn off after it's made, you know, so much money per day. And then I also want to turn off if it loses so much money per day, right? So you got a net max profit, net max loss, you know, very commonly asked for options there. And again, kind of a subtle but very powerful part of BlackBird's money management is the daily safeguards, or is that this is daily money management, right? So if you're not familiar with running a strategy, the way NinjaTrader tracks P&L is if you start your strategy on Monday and then leave it running 24 hours and turn it off on Friday, your P&L, that strategy that NinjaTrader accumulates, is for all 5 days, right? So, but what BlackBird does is BlackBird will reset your profit and loss on a daily basis. So at midnight, BlackBird resets the P&L. So that way, you know, all these money management rules, they work on a daily basis, not for how long you've had BlackBird turned on and running. You know, so if you run BlackBird all week long without turning it off, you know, you don't want to be working with the accumulated profits or losses, you know, when you get Thursday on their 4th day, right? You need to do it on a daily basis. And so we coded that into BlackBird there. And of course, you know, there's, you know, other, you know, kind of commonly asked for, you know, like stop trading after so many trades, stop trading after so many winning trades or so many losing trades, you know, very typical ones. You know, max number of trades, that's kind of handy. So, you know, I don't know, if you have a scalping system, you know, you may want to make sure that, you know, it's not trading, too much per day, maybe you want to set a limit on how many trades. That way you're not making your broker rich, right? You might want to, if you've got a scalping system, on some of those highly volatile days, you may just need to set some kind of a limit as to how many trades, you want BlackBird to take for you. So, and another powerful feature, this is a very commonly requested feature here, which currently NinjaTrader doesn't have this capability, but we've managed, Jeremy has managed to find a way to build this capability, which is you can group your Blackbirds together, right? So right now, all the strategies out there, custom coded or the ones for sale, all the strategies out there, they all work on an individual mode, right? So this is NinjaTrader's kind of default way of running a strategy, right? It makes a lot of sense. Is that each strategy, is only aware of its own profits and losses. But now we've had a lot of requests where, traders would want to put BlackBird on, say, 4 different instruments. Say you want to run BlackBird on the ES, the YM, oil, and maybe the NASDAQ, right? 5 different instruments. But what makes sense is that you want to run them in a group mode. So you want all 4 of those different Blackbirds running on different instruments. You want them to all communicate with each other and add their profit and losses together so that you come up with a net profit or net loss amongst all 4 Blackbirds, right? So you can put all 4 Blackbirds in this group mode, and what the Blackbirds do is they all communicate with each other and they add up their total net profits and losses for the day. And so you can use this combined total to then turn off all of the Blackbirds, right? So once your combined net profit would reach, $800, for example, then all 4 Blackbirds would turn themselves off. Once they go flat, once they've exited their trades, and they're all flat, and then they all see, oh, I've made my $800 for the day, and then they're just going to turn themselves off for the day. You're done. You got your profits locked in. You're done for. Take it home. So, so again, another industry first, right? This group mode, only we have this group mode capability for our strategy. Just like with the dynamic planner that I showed you, we're the only ones that have a dynamic planner capability in this Blackbird. So, yeah, all right, and let's see, the last kind of, again, another industry first, another money management feature is our daily watermark, oftentimes referred to as a high watermark. And so before I kind of cover the settings here, I'm going to give it over to Jeremy, and Jeremy has a illustration to help help you understand what a watermark is, right? Most traders are new to the watermark concept, so I'll turn it over to Jeremy here, and he's going to help you understand what the watermark is. So there you go.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, okay, so I hope you guys can all see my screen there. But basically the high watermark is a concept that institutional traders like to use quite a lot, and the whole idea is to, trading, is kind of like, you can look at the minute picture, and then you can sort of zoom out and look at a bigger picture, and everything kind of just scales properly. So if you think of your stop losses when you're just trading a position, if you want to look at the kind of account level sort of bird's eye view of that, that's kind of what the high watermark is. And so again, this is a very popular tool that's used to manage your money. And the whole point of it is to try to get you to get more winning days than losing days. Okay, so how many times have you you've started the morning and you've got you're up a fair bit of money, say you're up $1,000, but then the market turned on you, the conditions changed, you weren't ready for it, and you gave all your winnings back to the market and then some. That's probably one of the most frustrating things I'm sure as a trader, is the idea that you were up quite a bit and then you walked away with a loss still. And the high watermark is designed to alleviate that situation. So if you imagine that you start off, the morning with no trades, you're at zero, no losses, no wins. You make your first trade, you're at $250 of up on your first win. What BlackBird will do is look at your watermark settings and say, for example, you've set it to 25%. It will move up this kind of think of it as a high watermark stop loss, right? A stop loss for your account for the day. The idea being that you want to guarantee that you're going to walk away with at least, in this case, about $189 in profit for the day. So that red line sort of marks the cutoff point. So if you break that red line, if your next trade happens to be a loss and whatnot, it'll stop trading for the day, and you still walk away with something instead of sort of keeping having to keep going and potentially lose all of it. So for example, say your second trade comes in, you make a bit of a loss there. Actually, in this case, you are above the watermark stop, so you're still good to go. And BlackBird will keep going with another trade. You make a nice win, and it moves up the watermark stop again, 25% less than the 480. And now, generally speaking, you're going to be walking away with more. So it's going to sort of protect your profits beyond that 25% mark. Again, say you make another loss, you're still good to go because you haven't breached that stop loss there. And then finally, say that last trade you make breaches that stop loss, that high watermark stop, and what BlackBird will do at this point it'll get you out of the trading for today. It'll count to today as a win, and you walk away with the day a winner. And again, the whole point is you walk away with more winning days than losing days. Then that will naturally lend itself to a nice smooth equity curve. And so I also want to kind of address another thing that we did add since the launch of BlackBird. So you sort of have two choices here, and of course everything is up to you and how you decide to implement this. But you could have BlackBird sort of allow a trade to evolve itself out, completely flesh it out all the way. And sometimes in the middle of a trade, it might dip kind of above or below this total net profit line. But you might tell it, nope, just let the trade evolve all the way, no matter how it goes, and then at the end of the trade, evaluate where you are, and then decide if we breach that watermark stop, and then decide to continue or not to continue. Or if you're more of the conservative type and you absolutely want to make sure you walk away with at least this much money for the day, you can actually tell BlackBird, no, if any time in the middle of a trade it does breach this line, even if it's unrealized profit or unrealized losses, just get out of the trade and stop for the day. So tremendous flexibility in terms of how you set it up. And again, the whole thing is to model exactly what institutional traders have been doing for a very long time. So actually, I'm going to pass it back to Zach here. He's going to continue with a few more features.
So you're just trying to get switched over, and let's see. Looks like the webinar software froze up on me a little bit. Here we go. Just a minute, guys. Trying to get the webinar software to work with me. And Hmm.
Let's see if I can make you. Okay, there
we
you
go.
go. I see.
Yeah. All right. Finally got it to work for me. Let's see. So let me just. There we go. Now my preview window's coming in. Okay, good. All right. So yeah. So there you go. So Jeremy kind of allows you to visually kind of see the concept of what a high watermark is, right? So right, it's basically kind of like a stop loss for your total profits for the day, right? Your total account profits. And so there's a couple of settings for that. One is the activation price, right? So you don't want the watermark to kick in right away, right? Like if you've made 70 bucks on your first trade, you may not want your watermark to kick in that soon, right? It might, you might want to wait for, a little more profit. So let's say, you want to wait, you may want to wait for at least $250 profit before you start using the watermark feature, right? Before you actually activate that watermark capability there. So, and then, in that PowerPoint illustration, we were using a 25% loss percentage there, so I could just adjust that down to 25% if I wanted to. So you can control that you can control this percentage here, any percentage you want there. Or also you could use a fixed amount. It's let's just say you're only willing to it's kind of like if you know exactly what your stop losses are, what your risk is on all the trades, then maybe a fixed amount might work better for you. So maybe just saying $200 below whatever your profit is, right? So if you're up, $500 and you have a $200 mark there, a $200 mark, then if your profits fall below $300, then the high watermark turns the system off, turns BlackBird off, and you're done for the day, right? It locks in those profits for the day. So yeah, so there we go. So there's the high watermark feature. And let's see, next, let's go into the scheduling here. So here's one of the other highly requested features here that traders want, which is to restrict the hours of which you want BlackBird to trade. Obviously, most people don't have an account to allow overnight trading, to go into the overnight margin. So what you can do, and also the markets just kind of die overnight, so there's lots of reasons that you may not want to trade overnight. Most traders don't. So you can turn on this scheduler, and I'm going to use the US equities here. And right, so let's just put in that puts in the standard trading hours there on the East Coast. All right, 9:30 to 4. And you can adjust this. So say, for example, you don't like, you don't want your system trading on Friday afternoons. Sometimes Friday afternoons are too volatile, if it's a 3-day weekend, or sometimes Friday afternoons are just dead. So, whatever your reason is, you can go in there and you can control things as well. And maybe also, maybe you're an oil trader, and I believe oil inventory reports come out on Wednesday mornings, right? So you could set a block. You could block out a section of time there, right? Pretty easily. So, and here's a little tip. If you look at the time scale, you can see it's in 1 hour increments, and you can change that increment level if you want. So I could go in there, go to a 5-minute increment, and then I could, I could move this up, something like that. I think the oil report comes out something like 10 or 15 minutes after the hour. So I can just kind of block out a narrow 20-minute window like that, or a 15-minute window if I want to. All right, so you got, lots of flexibility there. And of course, you can open that up and put in exactly, an exact time, all the way down to the seconds if you want to get that detailed level here. And also, just going to take a look at this here. So also, as a safeguard, when the session ends, sometimes, if you're running an automated system, sometimes your system can literally throw a trade in like 5 minutes before the market's going to close, right? And so we also have this force trades to exit feature here, right? So a little tip, I'd set this to a negative value here, so that way you're forcing the trades to close after the market closes here. So it's a little, little tip there. So there you go. So that's kind of the overview of the scheduler. And then I'm just going to give a quick look at the alerts here, because a very heavily requested feature is the ability to send email alerts, right? So if you're letting BlackBird auto trade for you, then you might want to get yourself an email alert here, right? So this one here is the active position. So when a trade goes on live and it gets filled, when your trade is opened and filled, you can send yourself an email. And in the email here, right, obviously, from address to address. And one of the cool things about this email capability is, let's take a look at the subject line here. So you can create your own custom subject line. So, let's say you want the time that the trade took place, and you want to know what instrument it took place at. And so you can put that in there, and put something like a BlackBird took a trade. You can kind of customize your subject line there, and same thing for the messages. So you can go in here and put a more detailed message in there, and all of these variables get replaced with the actual variable that it stands for, right? So you can see you got the instrument, so you can put in there what instrument, what chart, because maybe you're trading the same instrument but different time frames, so you can put the chart on there, and probably very importantly, you want to know what price that trade took place, and what direction that the trade took place there. Right, so a bunch of bunch of key things in there, and of course you can put in my custom message as well, right? So there you go, fully customized email report there, right? And you send yourself an email when the trade gets flattened, when the trade closes out, so you can know, so you get the entry price and you can get the exit price, you get all the details there. So yep. And just there's some other things here. You can put a chart marker, you can play a sound, all kinds of other alert options available there for you as well. So all right, well, that kind of covers it, for the BlackBird review. So let me kind of finish off with showing you a couple other things here. Oh yeah, here was something else I was going to show you. So I was going to bring up, so this indicator I have on my chart, if you don't have that and you'd like to get a copy, Our partners here, Lizard Trader, you can get that from their website for free. That's a free indicator. For anybody who has that Anna Supertrend, who got it from Big Mike's or Futures IO, that's the older versions are put up there. The new versions are available off of their website now, right? So if you got the old version, you might want to take a trip over to their website here, and you can download the latest and greatest version of those ANA indicators. So, all right, but what I really wanted to show you was the training workshops. So I had mentioned this at the beginning, that I put on, I'm the actual software trainer, and I put on a weekly training workshops there. All right, so if you go to support BlackBird workshop or Bloodhound workshop, that'll take you to our workshop page. And if we scroll down a little bit, you can see here. So here's the workshop for Bloodhound, and it's a weekly workshop on Thursday mornings, or noontime Eastern, or lunchtime Eastern, or in the morning for everybody else, Pacific Coast there. And then if you'd like to join me for tomorrow's BlackBird workshop, right? So the BlackBird workshops are on Fridays, same time, but on Fridays, so noon Eastern tomorrow. And all you have to do is just click this link here, right? You can see there's a little link right there. Just click that when it's time to start the workshop, and that'll jump you right into the webinar software for that workshop. And you guys can ask me, some more detailed questions that, may not be able to. And yeah, if you have got some sales related questions here, we've got a little chat thing here. And so that was Keith popping in a little message there for me. So very funny. All right. So yeah, so if you have some sales related questions there, you can just pull up that little chat box there and ask them. And also, if you like, if you just like kind of doing research on your own, you can watch the recorded workshops. So all the workshops are typically recorded here. And so you can just click on that. And so if you want, you can kind of read through all the workshops and the questions that have been answered in these workshops. So these workshops are for the customers to ask any question they want on how to use the software, right? So so most of this stuff, actually I'd say 99% of this all comes from customer questions. So you can kind of scan through here, see what kind of questions have been answered, and it'll give you a kind of a better idea, more information of exactly what BlackBird can do, its capabilities, right? So there you go. So if you want to join the workshops, there's the links for it for tomorrow, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy, and he's going to kind of wrap it up, and then we'll get to the questions here. We'll get to the Q&A section here as soon as Jeremy wraps things up.
All right, guys. Thanks, Zach. Nice touch there, Keith. So I just want to wrap up, and Zach covered obviously what seems like quite a lot of information, and of course, like you mentioned before, if you're finding yourself that wow, there's a lot of stuff to BlackBird. The truth is there absolutely is a lot. We've wrapped a ton of stuff with the product, but don't worry about it because the workshops are live, and you can always have your questions answered if you have a certain objective you want to accomplish with BlackBird, or you want to learn a certain feature. You can always just pipe in and have your questions answered live, and beyond that, we always have we're very good with support in terms of getting back to you. But some of the things that we covered, like again, this is a full-blown kind of package in terms of we're trying to go full circle. Right. So again, Bloodhound was a signal generator BlackBird does everything beyond the signals. That is taking those signals and actually making something useful out of them in terms of putting real trades on. And as you saw, that you have no limits in terms of what kind of trades you can design with your stop losses, your limit entries, or sorry, your entries, or your profit targets. As you saw, you can move anything around anytime you want, just very much like a real discretionary trader does. Your signals can also come from different sources, from just third-party indicators, as well as Bloodhound if you own Bloodhound. And as we demonstrated earlier, the enhanced discretionary trader controls greatly surpass what's just available with the chart trader. You know, the one thing that I found really neat, and once we built it, we're really kind of happy with the way the tool works, is the dynamic planning, the ability to see and visualize your trades right on the chart before you hit the execute button. And so you're not risking anything at all. You're making sure everything's placed exactly where you want it, and boom, you hit the execute button, everything goes on in a flash, and you're live. And you can either let the auto trader just take over from there, or if you want to massage the trade manually, you can also do that as well. So we don't put any sort of restrictions on your trading style. And if you're a discretionary type trader, or if you like the full automation, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle, somewhere in between, along that spectrum, BlackBird is sort of designed to suit your style, rather than try to impose anything on you. And of course, the last things we did show, the scheduling, and then the money management features with the daily account limits and the watermark feature, which is a fantastic feature for controlling your overall account.